Here are the materials that will be very helpful for working on this perspective project. A ruler, especially we need to map out a lot of perspective lines, and perspective can be quite mathematical and sort of follow a system, and having a straight edge is very helpful for that. This is my pencil, even though it's a mechanical pencil, same thing as what you guys have. And we're going to be using this for very lightly drawing out perspective lines. We have our charcoal pencil, and this is the lighter one, and this will be for actual drawing lines. And this is just another version of the white plastic eraser. So you guys have the cubes, and this is the same exact thing, Staedtler Mars plastic. And they also have two kinds of paper worth mentioning, newsprint. And newsprint will be helpful just for testing out or doodling in order to figure out the correct perspective. And the actual drawing paper that we'll work on is the Bristol paper. And Bristol is helpful in this case because it's smooth and very erasable. And when we go to do perspective, there's going to be some erasure, and mistakes may happen too. So we want a paper that isn't going to be impossible to erase on. There's a vanishing point, and from this vanishing point extend perspective lines. These help us map planes that recede in space. However, we're also going to be mapping some flat planes, like this back wall, and it sort of faces us. It doesn't come out at us. We have planes that are facing us, and we have planes that are perspective planes receding into space. On the planes that are facing us, the horizontals need to be true horizontal, the verticals need to be true verticals. So I'm going to set myself up with a central vanishing point. So again, I'm going to give myself a very soft, very faint horizon line. If you add any of these, central vanishing point, horizon line, keep it really light at first. And I'm going to start with a couple of buildings, a row of buildings. So what I'm doing at first is mapping out kind of a symmetrical set of lines, and it's going to be a row of buildings. So off this horizon line, this angle is kind of equal to this angle. And same thing over here. I'm going to have maybe a sidewalk. And again, I'm not drawing yet, I'm just mapping things out. So really lightly is good. So just a reminder, when we look at this, the central horizon line, it represents the level of our eyes. So here's the top of the wall. It's a little bit higher than our eye level. And here's the bottom of the wall where it meets the ground. So you can already see everything's vanishing into this one central vanishing point. And back to my building, I'm going to kind of naively draw in some elements that I know I want on the buildings. I want a door. I want a second story window. This isn't correct yet. I'm just sort of sketching in. So again, I said the verticals have to be a real true vertical, right? So that includes the sides of windows and doors. So I'm just going to mark that in. And now I want to check my perspective lines. All of the perspective lines converge into that vanishing point. So that includes these horizontal or diagonals of the door, for example, and the horizontal diagonals of the window. So see where I was before without having any perspective, and see where it is now, and then I'm just going to... Okay, so here's a really general block in of these details. Now I have my vanishing point, and I have the heights and sort of dimensions of the windows, right? So I can line these dimensions up with the vanishing point. Some things like the width that might be incorrect, and I'll have to adjust that accordingly, but let's just do the same thing with the dimensions of the window. So I just cleaned this up a hair and refined the lines using charcoal. Figure out things with the pencil, and then once we know we really have sort of understood it, then we can commit to the lines using charcoal. So I'm pretty happy with the dimensions of these parts, of the doors, of the windows, but I also see one other problem. Everything is very flat. Windows aren't flat, flush with the wall. The doors also aren't just flush with the wall. So I want to look for the depth of these things. And what I mean is, for example, the windows may be recessed a bit, and the doors may be recessed a bit, right? And here's where we want to make sure that we're following those rules of perspective. We have planes that are facing us, and we have planes that are perspective planes receding into space. On the planes that are facing us, the horizontals need to be true horizontal, the verticals need to be true verticals. These little bits of depth, these are also planes that are sort of facing towards us. So here, I'm going to make sure that I use a nice true horizontal line. Now there's also like some depth here, and this is a perspective line. So this one recedes into that vanishing point. So now we have depth, it's not just a flat plane. So the same thing goes for up here. Just to show that we also, it doesn't have to be only architectural elements, let's bring in some trees too. And I could kind of imagine that there's sort of a similar size of these buildings. And I'm just going to block in sort of this shape of the tree, outer shape of the tree. So I just tightened the drawing up a little bit and did a very bare minimum amount of value just to kind of clarify some of the different planes in the drawing. And I realized that I wanted to show you guys a new trick. And you guys have seen part of this before, where we have a rough piece of paper, and we use this sometimes to sharpen our vine charcoal, but then it also gives us dust, right? And in the past we've use the chamois cloth to dip into here and pick up some of this dust and use it in the drawing. Well, I'm going to use a Q-tip, something that we probably all have lying around home someplace. And this can be a really good drawing tool also for just bringing in some value. It's better in tight areas than the chamois cloth. So I just wanted to quickly bring some more value into the trees and also into this road. And actually here I'll talk you guys through something else, which is a new color theory idea. We've kind of alluded to it a few times in discussions in the past. It's atmospheric perspective. And the idea goes like this. Things that recede in space get lighter or grayer and lower contrast. So actually, if you look really closely, you can see some of my darker lines and more contrasty lines are in front. And so I'm actually going to play with this and let things in the distance be a little bit lighter. Like I'll just sort of let the road fade into a lighter value because it's further back in the distance. And so in fact I can let the road get sort of more contrasty in the foreground. I can bring in more texture and let it be sort of gritty and higher contrast.